Good evening, everyone. How's it going out there? Welcome back here to a Tuesday night, September 9th, 2025 today, 9:35 p.m. That's California time here. Latest activity shows a 3.2 earthquake across the area around the Philippines region there in the green flag. All right, starting off here into the Northern California, Southern Oregon, take your pick here. This is kind of a big deal when I pointed out that this was off the coast here of Northern California. But if you want to draw a straight line and say this was Oregon, so be it. Regardless, some earthquake activity stirring up out there today. Actually, quite a bit of earthquake movement here into the west of the Cascadia subduction zone, okay? Let's be transparent on that. That's well west, and it's into the Gorda area. It's Gorda Ridges. There's a spreading seafloor center out here that spreads, obviously creating new seafloor. This activity obviously spreading down south here into the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. There's been quite a bit of earthquake activity here with 11 earthquakes here in the last 24 hours, but that doesn't include the ones there previous in the day from yesterday. So we got about 15, including the big one, a 5.8, 4.9, 4.9, and a 5.1. Some of the largest aftershock sequences out there across this area. Now, these are not big earthquakes, but the importance of this is the proximity to these earthquakes here in the spreading seafloor center, which, of course, is the Cascadia subduction zone region. Right now, this is just a cutout layer here of the area of the Cascadia. I want to show you guys this one first here. The earthquake activity is occurring around the Gorda Ridge into the Gorda Plate area within this region, roughly right around where the arrows are separating. Now, when things take place in that area, strain increases down. You can pretty much follow a line directly down in this fashion here towards the southern end of the locked area of the Cascadia subduction zone. This is a cutout of the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, and this should include Northern California as well. It's similar, right? You got the subduction zone here where the locked area is. Tremor counts are deeper, about 20 miles or so underneath this area into the subduction zone, but beyond the locked area. And, of course, you get further down into the mantle where you get the Cascade volcanoes and so on. This is a simplified layout of the Cascadia subduction zone across the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. The locked area extends roughly about coastal areas westward here to the subduction zone interface. So the earthquake activity obviously well away from that region, but obviously adding strain down here in this region of the Cascadia subduction zone. We've seen a bouncing back and forth effect of the earthquake activity here in the last 24 hours. Quite amplified here. Also some further movement this morning, about 15 miles or so, 15 to 18 miles into the subduction zone of the Cascadia underneath Northern California with a number of earthquakes down here, the largest at 3.4. So this has been bouncing back and forth here all day. We had a near four-pointer with a 3.9 at 12:40 p.m. That earthquake was immediately following a 5.1 up here along the Gorda Ridges. Looks like roughly 10 minutes or so. So once the 5.1 struck, we've seen further activity down south here within 10 minutes across this area. So I know, and I'm 100% certain, that things are quite strained out here across this area of the subduction zone. Now, I want to point out a very important article here that I think you need to pay attention to. Everyone that lives out here really needs to pay attention to this, okay? This is not fear-mongering, and please don't comment that it is fear-mongering, because this is factual information out here. From the survivingcascadia.com website, which you are welcome to go check out yourself. I'll include the link here in the comments below. This is the number of years between major earthquakes. 6,000 years of history. on the Cascadia subduction zone. Okay, so when it comes to geology and earthquake forecast, so to speak, we have to look at what has happened in the past, how much time has passed, and where we're at right now. Now, looking at this model here, 93% of the time, the fault, which is the Cascadia subduction zone, has not had to wait 324 years for the strain to break. We are at 325 years since the last big earthquake. So that's 93% of the time. We are way up there in terms of our possibility of seeing a big earthquake. Now, the longest time span between the major Cascadia earthquakes in the past 4 millennia was only 291 years, and we're at 325 years. So that was until now, where we're at. The Pacific Northwest hasn't had an interval longer than 344 years in the last 6 millennia, 6,000 years. So we are at 325 years since the last big earthquake. Is it going to take another 344 years? I don't think so. That's why you have to watch what's going on out here across the Gorda Ridges. The tremor activity is a big player in terms of seeing what's going on across the Cascadia subduction zone. No one knows exactly if stuff like this happened prior to the 1700 earthquake. All they know is that big earthquakes struck out here during certain periods, throughout the last 6,000 years. They can tell by the sediment displacements out there across various oceanic discovery sites. But who knows if there was a swarm out here? Who knows if there was tremor activity stirring up? The Cascadia tremor activity has come to a complete halt out there. So it's possible we may be at maximum pressurization out here. That any further escalation will result in a big earthquake out here for the Cascadia. Over the past week or so, if we look, oh man, tremor activity has been elevated across Northern California here specifically. Underneath Northern California, Southern Oregon included. So it makes sense there. That strain is building up across the Cascadia subduction zone. The further amplified activity there across the Gorda Ridges, right? The separation of the plates is increasing the strain down here. But magically, we have come to a halt today. If we look at the last 24 hours here, let me bring that up. There's nothing showing up here. So this is very interesting to watch here. We'll have to watch this, obviously, very closely. Time. It's all about time. I think they mentioned that there in the twilight zone as well. Everything's about time and stress when it comes to plate tectonics here. This is a very interesting article here. In fact, there's many pages with this website called survivingcascadia.com. It talks about, dude, everything you could ever think of, every single question that you may have in terms of the Cascadia rupture out here. I just wanted to point out these specific statements right here because this is what it's all about. Time. And so much time has passed here since our last big earthquake across the Cascadia that we are in that time zone where the naysayers, and the folks that are saying, oh, it's never going to happen, well, they're probably going to be quiet. I do think that's coming up soon. With the amount of activity stirring up here across the Gorda Ridges, elevated activity resulting because of that southeastward here. Nothing showing up here across the Cascadia for now, but I guarantee you, man, it's wounding up like a spring. Let me show you guys here the GPS stations here across Northern California. Brookings, Oregon is one of them. I want to show you guys this map right here. Look at this. If you watch my update videos, you'll see me talking about inflation at Kilauea Volcano, inflation at Yellowstone or whatnot. This is inflation, upward vertical displacement across Brookings, Oregon, along the coastline of the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, which is right here. Brookings, Oregon is roughly up here somewhere, Northern California northward. So as this pressurization is increasing down here, this area is folding in on itself. And I can show you guys here the locked area, right? This area uplifts because of this folding in here. You got the Juan de Fuca plate subducting underneath the North American plate. That pressurizes and moves up the plate here. The coast range of Oregon is increasing in terms of the vertical displacement. That is, where do we go here? Highly obvious on the inflation chart. This is vertical displacement. This only goes since 2008. Imagine accumulating this number here since 1700. But look, more importantly, is these run times here. Last year or recently, there's been more elevated run times than at any other time throughout the last, since 2008. And I went back here and looked on the chart. That's Brookings. If we go up north here, that one's not all that active. Gold Beach area, that is showing the similar run times that are way elevated. Look at those runtime dots right there. See those, the kind of purple dots? Let me show you guys. That's a pretty close-up view. More so than any time there since 2008, 2010. So something is going on here drastically across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone that warrants the attention of everyone out here. This is not anything to play around with, folks. Even a partial rupture of the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone can result into up to an 8.3, 8.4 magnitude earthquake. Even an 8.0 out here across this area, man, the shaking would be incredible, and then not to mention the subsequent tsunami. A full rupture of a 9.0 or greater, in fact, there's, the history there back in 1700 states that the earthquake there that happened, the full rupture was 9.0 up to a 9.2. So whether we are getting close for a full rupture or maybe just a partial rupture, I'm going out on a limb here thinking that we're more inclined to see a partial rupture than the full rupture. But don't discredit that, because 325 years has passed. Built up strain out here definitely has increased, so it's possible. But what's going on down south here, I do think we're likely to see a partial rupture here up to an 8.0, 8.4 magnitude earthquake across Northern California. That's not fear-mongering. That's just the cold, hard scientific truth. Facts that a lot of people don't want to hear. But I guarantee you the folks that live out here, they definitely want to hear about it because, well, they're going to be dealing with it. Me, myself, and I'm out here into the Sacramento Valley, a long ways away from the Cascadia subduction zone, but I will definitely feel it here around Chico area. I won't get a tsunami, obviously, but in 8.1, I felt the 7.1 that struck out here in December, and I had my house rocking back and forth. I can only imagine an 8.1. But for the folks there along the communities of Southern Oregon and Northern California, Southern Oregon coast, that is, that's going to be a very damaging earthquake, regardless if it's a partial rupture or a full rupture out here. So we have to not put this at the back of the burner, folks. Be prepared. The best thing to do, regardless if you live out here across the many beautiful communities there of Southern Oregon coast, Coos Bay. I travel this area quite a bit during the summertime just to get away from the heat. I was out here last couple months out here around Fort Bragg and up into the redwoods there outside of Crescent City. I was up here taking the kids there to see the old growth redwoods here recently. But Crescent City up there is that's been rising in terms of the land right about here. Here's Crescent City. That going up on a scale. That one's not all that. Let's see what we got here. That's kind of off. See, even this one's going up here. If you look on the map here, this goes to 2024, 2025, but I don't know about this area up here, but obviously we've been going up and up and up since 1700. Eventually that will rebound in a spring type of fashion here across the southern end. But also the likelihood of seeing a major rupture out there across the Cascadia increases following that partial rupture. That's just how the timeline happens out here along the Cascadia. So this is our newsmaker out here in terms of natural hazards and disasters. Yeah, you got Mount St. Helens, you got Mount Rainier. Those could be natural hazards and disasters, but the likelihood is the Cascadia subduction zone, and that's man, it's showing out there. You know, elevated activity even inland here across the southern end of the Cascadia. Nothing going on it for now, but let's be prepared, folks. Let's be prepared. 2.5 well inland here into Washington, east of the Cascades, earlier this evening. Looks like near Waterville, Washington. And the Cascadia tremor activity, if you look, has not been super amplified here today. Come to a halt across the southern end. So that's a little suspicious in itself there, that everything just came to a complete halt after 2 weeks here of elevated activity. Everything's just halted. So it's a little weird. Everything's just come to a halt there across the southern end. We'll give one glance here at Mount Rainier as far as earthquake activity goes. Not a whole lot going on there. There's some smaller quakes out there. You know, there's definitely some smaller earthquake activity. There's the earthquakes there from yesterday showing up in the P wave and S wave fashion. Earthquakes there locally. I mean, that's what earthquake activity looks like, right? I'm seeing probably 10 or 15, 20 earthquakes there across Mount Rainier. If you look on this seismograph station, compare that to the middle of July when things were rocking and rolling out there, right? That's earthquake activity. They were claiming there was hundreds of earthquakes out here each day, and that looks like hundreds of earthquakes, right? Those are very similar to what you're seeing right now in the last previous UTC time. Those are earthquakes. But all of a sudden, no, those aren't earthquakes. Those are ice quakes, or the wind blowing, or it's rock falls. Hello? Dude, I mean, come on. What's given here? Why the change of story here? Bay Area pretty quiet there. One lonesome earthquake there across the San Andreas Fault off of the Pacifica area this morning. Further down the line here, this is a little concerning here because over the last week we've seen a lot of activity across this creeping section, some close to the Parkfield segment, but has come to a halt here about the Parkfield section. It does look like it's stuck here, right at this level. The strain goes, as far as the strain, close to the Parkfield section, but this is halted. We're getting further stress activity inland across the west side of the San Joaquin Valley, but nothing going on here across the Parkfield section. So that tells me in itself there that we are well strained and about ready to see an earthquake of a 6.0 at least along this area of the San Andreas Fault. Regular intervals, okay, check this out, listen to me. Regular intervals run between 20 and 22 years along the Parkfield section of the San Andreas Fault, right here where this has come to a halt. Here we are, 2025. The last six-pointer was back in 2004, so we're at 21 years. 20 to 22 years as the regular interval. So strain quakes off of the area have shown up. Nothing going on along the Parkfield section, but I guarantee you we're getting awfully close. And the concerning part of this, it seems like a lot of doom and gloom, and maybe it is. But if you're prepared, it's not going to be. You have to be prepared. The bad thing about this is that the next six-pointer along the Parkfield section will most likely take the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault with it because of the amount of time that has passed out here along the plate boundary. Southern branch of the San Andreas Fault, number of earthquakes here last night and this morning as well. The largest there, 3.3, couple aftershocks there. That's just off the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. Couple down south as well. Nothing big going on across this area for now, but it's not always going to stay this way, folks. Geology, the study of time, the study of plate tectonics, all about time. And guess what? I've been hearing about this for how many years? Since I was a kid. I get that all the time on my comments. Oh, they've been saying that for 40 years now. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, right? You guys see all those comments on my videos, not only my videos, but other channels that you watch here on YouTube or social media. You know, oh, quit lying. It's never going to happen. Well, those complacent people there, in which they are, they're very complacent, are going to be the ones that find out and will be the ones caught off guard. A couple earthquakes out here across Utah, or Idaho. Nothing major going on there through Yellowstone for now, just a couple smaller earthquakes. Oil fields are rocking and rolling earlier. There was a 4-pointer. It looks like they downgraded that to 3.7. Originally, that came in as a 4.1, so that's a pretty significant downgrade. It is out there in the oil fields around the Permian Basin. Sometimes they can get earthquakes out around the 5 range out here, upper 5 range, so just be on guard for that if you live out there. Oil fields in Texas still rocking and rolling. New Madrid seismic zone, nothing going on there for now. Most of the activity, as we can see, heightened activity is across the Kamchatka and off the coast there of Oregon, Northern California. I'm going to put Northern California in there as well because I live out here, so it's just off the Northern California coast. Some activity down here across the Middle America Trench as well. The rest of the world here, New Zealand, goodness, what's going on down there in New Zealand? Nothing. That's a little scary. Eventually, that's going to move out here. There is a little fashion here, or a little pattern, so to speak, in terms of elevated earthquake activity here through the weeks and months and years, is that it does seem to work its way south, and then it works its way back north up here across the northern hemisphere of the globe, at least along the Pacific plate here, it looks like. Other areas of the world can differ, but right now we're elevated at northern areas, Middle America Trench somewhat elevated. Watch this region here overnight. I do think we'll see that fill in. Super deep earthquake there across the area south of the Philippines. Look at that earthquake there raised off the globe. I don't even know if it's showing up here. I don't see it. That's 100 and... Where's that earthquake at? Oh, that's that one over there across the Mariana Trench. But this super deep earthquake here, that is a telltale sign there of things about ready to move out here across the area in terms of larger adjustment. Number of 4s and 5s up there across the Kamchatka. Watch the Nankai Trough here. Pretty active. One up here across the Izu Trench, one south here of the Nankai Trough. The question is here, who's going to pop first? Japan, maybe the West Coast, Cascadia? I can't say who I got my money on, but I'm not a gambling man. But I do think out here across the southern end of the Cascadia, its time is coming up. And for the folks that live out here, I'm really surprised here that a lot of people don't know about the Cascadia subduction zone, that the danger that lurks offshore. When I stayed up here across Brookings, Oregon, and the Gold Beach area up north here a couple years ago, I traveled up here, just spent a couple days up there nights at various motels, and I was always, very courteous, checking in to the clerks and whatnot, and I'm just casually asking, so, you guys know about the earthquake potential down here or up here? And most of the clerks up there at the motels are like, yeah, the San Andreas fault, we heard about it. It's gonna be a big one. I'm thinking, the San Andreas fault? Okay, yeah, that's way down south. That has nothing to do with the Oregon area. A lot of people there are not prepared for what lurks and what will be coming out there across the Cascadia subduction zone. The tsunami potential is going to be the big thing, and many of these coastal areas are very lowland sea level regions. So these are at sea level. This area is supposed to drop 6 to 7 feet or so with the rebound of the earthquake. All right, it's going to drop due to the built up strain out here. And so that's going to put it below sea level. So you got the normal water coming in along with the tsunami. It's going to be worse than Japan, I think, when that comes in. So we just got to be prepared out there, folks. There's some beautiful, friendly, lovely people out there along the Oregon region. I absolutely love this area, but that out there, the Cascadia, is going to make everyone's day a very bad day out there. And it's not fear-mongering. It's something that happens. Last one was 325 years ago. How many generations of your family have lived since then? Your houses, your farmhouses, your land built up, businesses built up. Everyone's forgotten about everything, far as history goes out here. Obviously, 1700, that predates 1776 out here. The birth of the country, so to speak. But it's there. Let me tell you, it's there. Interesting activity out there across Hawaii as well. That's a lot of activity here for a daily count across Hawaii. Something brewing out here. A lot of this deeper movement. Of course, when the Pacific plate moves and when the convection of the areas down below, the heated areas and the melted regions move around, it's called convection. You get all this activity stirring up underneath the plates. Whatever's going on out here across the eastern Pacific is directly affecting Hawaii as well, with a lot of deeper activity. So let's go over and see what we got for the Kilauea volcano on the inflation data here real quick. Because we've been in, 32 episodes of eruption now across Kilauea volcano. I don't see any change there for now. So things are still inflating across the summit area of Kilauea volcano. But now we've been getting, a lot of earthquake activity out there. I hope that's not earthquake activity showing up here. That is some crazy activity if that is the case here. Let me see what else we got. Is that accurate? What is going on out there underneath this area? That's a little odd looking, to say the least. Even that one's showing up as well. Look at that. So there's something. If this is showing up here on this station, as well as many other stations out there underneath Kilauea volcano, that tells me there, what do we got? 1, 2, there's 10, 15, 20, maybe 20 earthquakes out here. That is a somewhat similar amount to what's going on underneath the Hawaii area, but not quite as much. So there's definitely something stirring up out here underneath the big island of Hawaii. Obviously, this is a process for the Hawaii chain here. This is the older islands. It goes back and goes up here to the Aleutian Trench. These are all old Hawaii islands here. So eventually this is going to continue in this fashion here to the southeast, pending the Pacific plate doesn't get any altered movement out here. But there's definitely something brewing underneath here with all that earthquake activity. That's something that is not normal on a broad scale sense out here, and something we haven't seen in the last 32 episodes of eruptions out here since December. So again, there's definitely some convection going on out here to cause that elevated seafloor, or elevated spreading seafloor center out there, right? Elevated spreading seafloor center is a result of upwelling there from the area below. So there's definitely a lot going on underneath here across the Pacific plate. California, Southern California here, I don't see any major elevated movement from that, but we'll definitely watch that. 2.6 out there around western Turkey there. It looks like where that 6-pointer struck a number of days back. Got a little bit of activity out there in the Red Sea area. Looks like some 4s out there. That's going to be some movement out here, it looks like. This is an area that is spreading slowly but surely right about here. Notice the arrows here pointing away from each other. The general movement of the plate, the Africa plate, is to the northeast, along with the Eurasia plate. But this is slowly spread apart, and it does look like we got some activity out there with the 4.5 and a 4.4 today. So that should increase elevated movement up there across the Mediterranean area and the Middle East. It does look like there's been some activity earlier this morning up there, but we'll continue to watch that. Just a lot going on out here right now, folks. And the thing for us humans here, our little ants out here, us as ants on this planet, we need to be prepared. We got a massive, super duper, I can't even think of a better word for this, massive coronal hole that's opening up there across the center disk of the sun. That is something I haven't seen in a long time. Now, something similar here happened a couple months back where we had elevated earthquake activity because of something similar, but not this massive. So, man, this is going to be a good test here when it comes to the possibility that coronal holes there directly facing Earth can have a direct impact on the plate tectonics and create elevated earthquake activity out here on the planet. If this doesn't happen with this, then I would say that's a no-go. So I'm going to be watching this closely. It's got a little butterfly fashion here, but that is super massive. So not only will we see the magnetic lines here shooting off of this coronal hole directly out into space, directly directed to the planet, but we should see the effects of this as a high-speed solar wind stream once that does get into more of an Earth-directed view. But that is, that's a little odd to see this massive of a coronal hole here. I'm really surprised more people aren't talking about it. I know Solar Ham here has been talking about how it looks like a butterfly. Let's see here. They're still talking about their fundraiser. This was put out yesterday. Well, maybe not so much here. I think it was posted on the social media site on Facebook, but that's a dandy of a coronal hole, and it's getting bigger, it looks like. So we'll watch that. Almost facing the planet here. So if we see big-time earthquake uptick here, then that has a pretty much a direct relationship to the elevated activity here on the planet. No major solar flares happening. I don't expect anything to stir up either. We got some very weak sunspots out here. The only area of interest is down south here, but even so, this looks fairly measly, not all that elevated, and everything else has just disappeared. There's not a whole lot there on the far side of the sun as well, but we'll double check that. This is today's, but technically a day behind because we are now into 9:10 UTC time, well into it. This is the eastern limb. Here's the western limb. This is a flat scale model sun image. A couple different sunspots out there on the far side, but really not all that impressed with that. Obviously, we will continue to dive down into solar minimum. Here's the solar progression chart. We peaked out there in the end of 2024. We're headed down here, where we'll see less and less sunspots here on the sun towards 2030, 32 for solar minimum. But we'll still see possibilities here of some uptick, but obviously this will definitely decrease in terms of the solar sunspots out there. Overnight, a little bit of slight risk for some severe weather. And not too much going on here. Let me check out the windy map out here real quick with the weather radar. We got some storms firing up just west of me. Seen a couple of flashes of lightning out here. It may look like maybe I'll get a little bit of sprinkles or so out here outside of Chico, but I'm not expecting much here. But I'll take anything. It was kind of nice today. Only 75 degrees here in my neck of the woods. I'll take that over 110 any day. Taking a look here at the wind, the lower dynamics winds here. It shows us any tropical systems here. And right now, I don't see anything heading towards the Gulf or the Atlantic down there across the eastern Pacific off the coast of Mexico. A number of them. But we'll have to check on that a little bit later. For now, another earthquake coming into Russia. We do need to watch what's going on out here across the Cascadia, folks. With this elevated activity, I was for sure expecting tremor activity to be elevated underneath this area, but it has come to a complete halt. So that means that things may be maximum strained out here right now. We're seeing elevated activity across the Gorda Ridges. When things strike out here, that applies direct pressure down south here to the southeast, and we've noticed that throughout the day today, resulting in further movement in this area following any earthquake activity up here. So this area, southern end of the Cascadia, man, I'm telling you, it's quite strained here. We need to be on guard. Please download the MyShake early alert notification system. I don't get paid from them. I'm not broadcasting them or giving them advertisement. I'm simply stating in terms of safety-wise for you and your family, your business, the MyShake early alert system notifies you when a big earthquake strikes in your region. Back in December of 2024, there was a 7.3 earthquake offshore. I think maybe a 7.1 around this area. Me living down here around Chico, my Shake Alert app went off and gave me a 20-second notification before I felt the rolling back and forth motion here in my house. It was a little scary. The strongest earthquake I've ever felt here living in Northern California. And 8.1 is going to be a lot more shaking than that. So obviously less in terms of your warning if you're close to this area, but whether it's 2 seconds, 5 seconds, or 20 seconds, that can be some life-saving time there for anyone. You got a 5-second warning. Hey, there was an 8.3 earthquake there off the coast of Oregon. 5 seconds. I mean, a lot of people are going to freeze up, but also at the same time, some people may be able to get that head start into getting outdoors or getting away into a safe spot. So it's free of charge, folks. It doesn't cost anything to download on your phone. It's not a spy device. It's not the government tracking you. It's an early alert notification system there. It's called MyShake Early Alert app, and you can download it from the Google app, your Google Play Store, or Android, or your iPhone device. So it's a must, folks. I'm telling you, you got to download it. What do we got here? Yeah, butterfly coronal hole. You got it there, Muggs. And the thing is, also with the everyone's mentioning about that Axel volcano, that is an area up here, right? This is a spreading seafloor center as well. There's a number of seamounts up here. The Axel volcano is not a super volcano that's going to blow up the Pacific Ocean. That last erupted back in 2016. We didn't even feel it. We didn't even know about it. No one's going to know about it when it happens again. I guarantee you that's not that big of a deal. There's seamounts that erupt all the time out there across the Pacific Ocean, and we're never going to know about it. We are going to know about this. So this earthquake activity has nothing to do with the Axel seamount up there. Yeah, MyShake is for the West Coast. It's for Oregon, Washington, and Northern California, for sure. Thank you there, Timothy, for uploading that site there. I do appreciate Timothy there. A good mod here on the channel. But anyway, have a good evening, folks. We will catch you guys out here for the Wednesday morning update. Watch this area closely here. That's a lot of interesting movement, bouncing back and forth here. And you can look at historical data like we did last night. Yes, there has been some earthquake activity out here historically in the last 10, 20 years. But the thing is, each time this happens here, it's adding further more strain out here. And it's all about time here. This area is well overdue for some earthquake activity. I'm going to include this link right here. I suggest, please, read this site here. This website has so much information out here. It's called survivingcascadia.com. We could sit on here all night and talk about this website. I messaged the author of this website here, and I don't know if they ever sent me an email back, but I did appreciate and asked if I could donate here to their cause out here, because man, if you click on any of these links here, you can see so much information here that anything you could think of, whether you're early morning commute, if your family is together, if it happens in the spring. These are just scenarios for when the earthquake could take place here. I mean, I can't think of a better site full of 100% information on the Cascadia than this site right here. And I don't recommend sites all the time, but man, this one right here, survivingcascadia.com, I put my money on. So we'll catch you guys out here in the morning for the Wednesday morning update. I will include the website here. In fact, I'm going to copy it right now, and I'll paste this in the description video of this update. Have a good one, folks.